Good morning and welcome to Switzerland for the biggest, probably best IFSC season in history, right here in Meiringen. I'm Charlie Bosco. I have professional Mike Langley alongside me, and before qualifiers all the semi-finals, first Mike, is we do have some slight changes to the scoring system this year.
Yeah, thanks Charlie. Emphasis slightly on the scoring. It's not a huge sea change. We won't see too many upset anything like that, but the emphasis has changed and the wording has changed. Most important thing we need to remember is bonuses are now called zones. So we do apologise, we slip up a few times. We've been saying bonuses for many years, but it's now called the zone, and this has changed a little bit. So in the rules now, the emphasis is aggression more, and that means the tops are still the most important thing, and attempts to tops, it's the number of zone holes you achieve. So we could be seeing some different tactics during the round.
Yeah, it does slightly reward progression in a way that the old system didn't. Whether you think that's right, we have had different opinions on that, but that is the way the sport's going. So as I said, top's still the most important thing, but secondly is no longer, it is how many zones you get, and basically the zone is what we used to call the bonus hold. Qualifiers yesterday, no huge surprises in the women's competition, but we did have a bit of a controversy with Janja Garnbret.
Yeah, Garnbret, there's actually a slightly different 2008 just released just before this we'll read it out just so we don't make any mistakes here, but rule 7.0 in the rule book, players must have achieved the starting position marked in accordance with article 7.2.5 and controlled the starting hand before using any other hold. And Janja's position was basically she had pulled on to the position but hadn't controlled the second starting handhold correctly, judge's opinion. Unfortunately at the time the judge on the mat spot the uncontrolled start. She got to climb again later on after completing her hold, and again slightly further. She didn't achieve the zone hold on that go, and didn't get the top either. Dropped right. Janja was a bit of a surprise to see her place a little bit further down than we'd normally expect.
Yeah, I think if the judge had spotted that mistake, we might see Janja back in her normal position in the final, but it'd be slightly out of where we're used to seeing it. Ditto Shauna Coxey, no controversy for her. She just didn't quite look her dominant self, the only woman, of course, to have ever won a World Cup in Meiringen.
Yeah, Shauna was really interesting. I mean, to be fair, to come off back of a pretty serious finger injury, she played a little bit yesterday, but again, yeah, she feels fit, she feels happy, but you do wonder if that's just playing on the back of her mind a little bit. But again, with Shauna, you can't quite tell. Sometimes she just cruises and then just comes out and starts to dominate later on. But again, she said that she wasn't quite happy with the route setting, the holds. She felt the polyurethane holds were a bit for her, but again, it's an equal challenge at the start of the competition, and some of the girls who came out early had no such problem. So it's going to be an interesting day, I think.
Yeah, and in the men's competition, most of the big names you'd expect to get through made it, but Alexander Megos, Sean Mccoll, Dimitri Sherov, Martin Stranik, to name a few. No joy for them. Mike, any thoughts?
Well, I think the men's competition was men's Group A was a bit too easy, let's be honest. There was lots and lots of climbers gone through with 5 tops. I think it was 5 tops in 15 was Alex Megos. He didn't qualify. He was down in 29th position, and he got 5 tops. That's pretty much unheard of. Group B was a much only one climber got all 5 boulders to complete. Pretty good day for Group. Yeah, it was slightly disappointing, and I think there's a few reasons. Laurent Laporte, we're going to see a little bit about him later. It's on the Facebook page as well. Laurent, last year here in Meiringen, he had the men's final was too hard. I do wonder in the year that it's taken to get back here whether that's just playing on his bit. He's dropped the level and it's just gone a bit too far. But it's such a tough job, and we say at times it's so hard to get right. And I don't know, I think the route setters would have gone away, have a go at that, and they'll think about how they're going to set the boulders here for the semi-final round.
Okay, well, we've talked enough about the qualifying round. Let's have a look at the highlights from yesterday.
With beautiful blue skies above the Haslital Valley and Meiringen village looking picturesque, not to mention full of world-class climbers, the qualifiers began in the boulder arena with the men up first. With 109 male climbers entered into the event, there was no shortage of action across the 2 groups of athletes who, as ever in the qualifiers, were climbing 5 boulders each, aiming to take one of the 20 available slots in the semi-finals.
The blocks were really nice. I enjoyed the boulders, but just way too easy. I think really misjudged today the grade of the boulders, which makes it a big gamble for us. We're 5 and 9. I'm actually probably on the edge. Will be out, and yeah, it's frustrating as a climber if you can't really show what you got because the boulders are just way too easy. That's part of bouldering.
Mccoll topped all 5 boulders in Group A, but didn't make the semis due to using too many attempts. Mccoll also missed out, continuing his poor bouldering form. Jongwon, meanwhile, looked just as strong as he did last season.
Last year, yeah, I felt so strong, and also I get the confidence now, so I feel strong now also. Today our group qualification boulder a little bit soft, but I can't wait to climb tomorrow. Yeah, I want to climb.
As we've come to expect at bouldering events in recent years, Japan was extremely well represented. They brought 12 male climbers to Meiringen and 7 made it through to semi-finals, including most of their big hitters. Keita Watabe was perhaps their most high-profile casualty of the qualifying round, but Tomoe Narasaki, Rei Sugimoto, reigning Meiringen champion Kokoro Fuji, and young upcoming all-rounder Yoshiyuki Ogata are all safely through. Speaking of young climbers, the Youth Olympic Games is taking place in Buenos Aires in October. Keep an eye out this season for the younger up-and-comers, such as Italy's Philipp Schenk.
Competition was good, also the boulders and the atmosphere, but I'm a bit tired from all the trainings, and so this was just a test for my shape, and yes, but at the end it went good.
In the afternoon, it was the turn of the women to take the Meiringen stage, including the force of nature that is Janja Garnbret.
In the off-season, yeah, I had 3 weeks rest and then I started training again. It was pretty good. I felt good, fresh and ready to start a new season. This year I'm skipping almost all the bouldering season. Like I'm not going to China, Vail and Japan. But I will do the full lead season and of course the World Championship, and yeah, no speed comps.
Janja went through to the semis easily enough and is aiming for her 26th final appearance in her 27th Lead or Boulder World Cup. Miho Nanaka looked on top form in the qualifiers and eased into the semis in joint third. She got 5 podiums in 2017 but no wins. Could this be the occasion for her to get back on the top step of the podium? She'll be joined in the semis by world champion and local heroine Petra Klingler, who looked fit and ready for the season.
Well, my winter training season was a bit up and down, but because I did the ice climbing competition, some of them as well. And of course, next to that, I tried to get in shape for bouldering. At the same time, I have my exams at university. There was a lot going on, but in total, I'm quite happy where I am now. And I have no injuries. That's really good. So yeah, I'm happy. The wall and the climbing was amazing. The boulders were just, oh, I loved them. And yeah, I guess I should be happy, and I am happy. But I always want a little bit more, I guess. For qualification, I must say the crowd was amazing. I heard so many familiar voices. It was really inspiring.
Shauna Coxey didn't look quite as at ease as usual in the qualifiers, but did enough to make it to the semis, and few would bet against her making the finals.
Today's semi-final here in Meiringen. Albon Levy and Maya Madeira of the United States will be first out. We'll get some start lists on screen for you in just a second. As I mentioned, some of the perhaps slightly additions you might have expected. You can see there the women's start list. Maya Madeira first up. 2 Japanese climbers, Iono, Maya Madeira, and then Berit Zondo. Looking forward to the 2012 world champion, of course, and then Shauna Coxey and Leah Crane coming together 6th and 7th. We mentioned Shauna Coxey at her imperious best, but she is still the only woman to have won a World Cup in Meiringen. Petra Klingler, 11th out, the world champion, the local hero. Wait for the cheer when she arrives on the stage by Janja Garnbret. So you'll see there down in 20th, qualified highest. Remember, the climbers coming out, as ever, in reverse order to how they qualified. So Manuel Corno qualified 20th and 19th, respectively. Some interesting names on that list. Fuji, the reigning champion from Meiringen, and he'll be 6th out. And Mccoll Webb had an amazing day. He will come out last, having qualified first. So we're underway. I mentioned him a second. There is Albon Levier out on men's one. Quite a physical start for the men, in contrast to the women on the slab over to going right to left here in Meiringen. So it's men 1 and women 1 on the far right of the wall, men's 4 and women's 4 far left.
Interesting yesterday, qualification round. Port, the head route setter, said it, but they said they're trying to maybe change the style a little bit this year, and especially hearing at the start of the competition. And I'm sure we're going to see a little bit of that. Not too much of the circus, the modern parkour style, gone to the basic yank and yard, and that's really what we saw yesterday. Hard on some big pinches and not too much crazy stuff. And I'm sure we'll see some of that come into the competition, a little bit of that today, but not too much. And maybe again later in the finals we'll see a bit more of the show boulders. But today it's just about hard climbing, and that's, yeah, personally I really like that. I'm looking forward to seeing what go.
Yeah, there's been some calls for that. Seems like many people have got their way. Whether it'll be the case for the final or not is another matter. But yeah, in the semi-final, these are pretty straight up boulders, not too many hidden moves, no run and jumps, no park style. They're fairly basic boulders.
It's worth mentioning the new wall in Meiringen as well, brand new wall, and the route set said they really enjoyed the facility that they've been given, really. And women's one here that starts on the hand side is a slab, and there's a slab on the of the wall here. Through the middle here with Albon Levier is actually a classic arete, which seems to have worked really well. Really nice sort of barn door trick moves around this corner, and I'm sure we're about to see one right there. Good start from Albon Levier, and yeah, the back to women's one. They were just saying that the route set is it's a club, this one. There's not too many tricks, not too many jumps to be had, and you can't quite see just due to the holds, but on that volume that she's leaning down to. This volume, there is 2 very small screw-ons that she's just...
Yeah, you can see Maya heading over to that left hand there. She's found it. The ones Mike talked about. They actually show up reasonably well. We were quite worried when Mike and I were down earlier that they wouldn't be visible. But you can just about make on those bolt-on holds. Maya's got one hand and the other one down and right of her right hand, just by her right thumb.
So actually you can see her just looking around the back of the slight edge in the volume that she can get her fingernails behind, and that was actually an element of the qualifiers yesterday. Some of the men in particular on that right were finding a few screw heads of the panels wall. A few of the savage really finding a few tricks, and Albon now finds his first hold of the...
Yeah, that's it. It's a method. That is not how the route setters envisaged that move. We could be out to see a Albon Levier. He's got that almost closed off crimp. And then the top hold, you can see up at the screens, getting plenty of encouragement. Not quite enough, but yeah, that move onto that red volume, the route we're envisaging that you do that quite dynamically, and he crept up to it. Just the first climber out, the route setters have already had their...
Yeah, I mean, the competitors are a very wily bunch. They will find pretty much any way possible to get up these boulders, and he actually sort of made the transition low round to the left-hand side rather than making the sort of more dynamic swing around the corner. It'll be interesting to see with 20 climbers in this semi-final which methods they start to use, and that top move, yeah, it's an absolute desperate smear, and blocking that crimp just means it's pure precision up there and a very low percentage move.
Slight change of method here from Maya. We saw her a second ago when I was explaining where the bolt-on holds are. We saw her creeping down with the left hand. This time she's going with the left foot. You can see there the zone hold. Not just tuning in, Mike and I explained earlier, there has been a slight change of rules and a slight change of terminology. What is now marked as the zone hold was the bonus hold, and how many zone holds you get is now the second. We separate the climbers if they're equal on top.
Yeah, and controlling the zone is a very, very important element as well, and the judges have got a really tough job down there, but she's definitely moving in that zone hold, so I'd be surprised if she wasn't offered that. Albon Levier, will he go back down low this time then? He seems to be finding quite a decent crimp with that seems to make the transition around the corner a lot easier for him, and he's been in this position before. Now let's see if he can make a great angle to see what he's up against. These brand new holds here from Cheetah and flat holds, so the competitors wouldn't have actually gets before.
Okay, Albon almost to the crimp, and it's again he touches it but he can't hold it. 5 minutes, of course, per attempt. They're on 5-minute rotation. Bon and Meyer will now get 5-minute rest and they'll be back on. And we're joined by Cornu and Ionoe. Manuel Cornu, reigning French champion. He in the French Championships, and some of you might remember 2006. Manuel turned to the crowd, dropped a move, dropped a top in the final, and it looked to me like he nearly made the same mistake in the French Championships about 6 to 8 weeks ago. All the same thing, he celebrated early, so he perhaps not learned his lesson. We shall see. He's an extremely talented climber, being French champion. Mean feat when you think about who he's competing against.
Interesting to see Iono's method here, because the route suggesting that she needs her right foot, where she's currently got most of the weight on the left foot there. You can see her trying to go for the foot swap, just not finding balance point. That is a relatively positive hold in slab terms. Anyway, as Manuel Cornu goes for a traditional method for him, which is based fly at the next hold. Not going to work in this. Although, like I said, a lot more traditional, sort of bit more steady away climbing we're seeing throughout this weekend so far. A lot of tenuous moves, a lot of blocked holds. Higher up in that men's number 1. Struggling just to get into the slot. Stage Alban might be slightly disappointed with that, actually. I think he had a pretty reasonable. Iono now gets her right foot onto the hold and is much been working away across this slab, but it's definitely not only about that move across. But this boulder looks really tough as well.
Just to confirm, both Albon and Meyer were awarded, as we suspected they might be so. See the bottom of the zone hole, see the golden disc, you know. This is the top of his shot there, that's where he's heading. When we were chatting to the route half an hour, they were predicting lunge for that hold. Stop it.
Exactly like that. Yeah, like the exact method there that Jamie Cassidy, one of the route setters here, was describing. Man, Cornu, I thought he was walking off the stage then, but it's just step away, having another look. But that's the method: roll over the right hand and sort of flip the left hand and drag it down that volume. But really confusing boulder, I have to say. There's a lot of things going on, quite low on that, on the block.
Let's have a look at Io creeping on the left. Finals for her last year, Nanjing and Mumbai. Absolutely intention, not her best. FY19, France coming out second in the semi-final. Certainly capable of making the finals, especially as we talked about at the top of the broadcast. Some slightly surprising results, and Donna Coxey or Janja Garnbret looking quite at the peak of their powers. Certainly an opportunity for Io here. Let's have a look at the top of the day. We are. Just control that hold, Manu. Nice work.
Slot there, but the way that he's just sort of dominated that top section. And I think Manuel Cornu just followed Instagram and stuff over the winter. He looks like he's on really, really good form. Like I said, he's coming out. He's going to be on fire, no doubt.
Yeah, for him last year. Made a pretty good start on his attempt to make the first one of 2018.
This semi is going to be really interesting. Very big names, some big hits early in the men's Kokura Fu last year here in Meiringen, coming out in 6th and 6th. So it's going to give us a really how the routes gauge these boulders, what the level is going to be like very early on, and I wonder if we're going to be into some surprise results.
Two winners from Meiringen in 2017 will both be out at the same time in this semi-final this morning. Let's have a look at Io creeping left. Again, seems to have the body position right. There's bolts on. Can't quite tell from this angle if he's using it. I expect she was pinching it with that left thumb. Okay, so she's up to the zone. This is where the subjective element of judging comes in. She has to control that zone in order to be awarded it. I think that's a tough one for the judges.
Yeah, on that volume there's a small screw on the bottom left-hand side, and then there's one sort of wedged in between the wall and the edge of the volume, sort of quite high up, which I think she's got to step with her right. Didn't quite happen for her, unfortunately. Looks like she might be walking off.
I think she's had enough. 25 seconds left. Calls 5 flat minutes. The semi-final. There's a pan across the stage. You can see we're going right to left. There's men's 2, 3, women's 3, and men's 4, women's 4. Men finishing on a slab, women starting on one. To give you some idea, we've got the architectural plans of the wall here in Meiringen, and the slabs are 7 degrees off vertical, so they're 80 degrees.
If you know your climbing walls as well, that is a classic angle. 7 degrees, somewhere between 5 and 10 is always preferred. Any more than that, it's basically walking.
So this would be interesting. Schubert out third, qualified 18th in the elite category of climbers to have won World Cups in 2 disciplines. Stage, Mayo Nakamura of Japan also out. Look at men's 2 and women's 2.
And Jakob's one of those interesting climbers. We interview from the qualifiers yesterday, was not best for the route setting yesterday, so hopefully he's had the ability to go home, reset overnight and come back with a fresh mentality, and hopefully the route setting suits him today, because for him he felt like it was too easy and he may have been forced out of the competition, but luckily for us, first look, as Charlie said, into women's 2 by Jamie Cassidy on the red volumes here, brand new holds, like I said, with cheater and flat hold.
If you've got big enough hands, there's potentially a possible hand jam there between those 2 volumes. One that Maya's holding and the one immediately right of it. Doesn't look like she's very tempted by that. Look at the state of Jamie Cassidy's hands earlier on. I think I can understand why. The most comfortable hand jam in the world. So, she's got the zone. There's a tiny bolt on hold to the shoulders. You can see it out to the left. To top. She's going to go direct. Interested to see whether that bolt on could be the key to perhaps controlling that move.
Yeah, she seems to feel quite fire for the finish hold. It is big, but it's not really a jug. It's kind of slopey donut.
Yeah, it's not especially positive. Quite a small sweet spot on those holds. So let's have a look at Albon. You can see Jakob Schubert, small screen bottom left, up to the zone again, quite slowly. No joy for Albon. 3 minutes to go. This rotation. There's Jakob. Okay, so again, did it stack?
This move's all about the power in the left arm. You can see the flex there in Jakob Schubert's top shoulder. Easily done in the end. Follows Manuel Cornu's effort. Good start from what is a legend in Jakob Schubert. Let's see if he can make his way to another World Cup finals. Fantastic start, and it's looking like men's number 1 is not causing too many problems, and I think that's going to be key going through to the rest of the round. Early top on men's number 1.
On Levier, I wonder if that might come back to hold. There's no top there. He was 4th in Meiringen years ago in 2016. Not a great start, but plenty of time to make up for it. Could really do with a top on number 2 though. Meanwhile, Mao Nakamura. Well, nobody progressing on the reaches of this women's 1. I don't get the impression, chatting to Jamie, the route setters was an especially hard slab by the standards of World Cups, but no tops just yet. 20 climbers as ever in the semi-finals. They get 5 minutes on each boulder, 5 minutes rest, and then they attempt the next boulder, so it won't be too long until the bowl with 8 climbers. So onto the zone. I think that is certain control.
You can see it was just under her right wrist. There's the other small screw-on hold there, wedged up against the wall. That's the one that she will need to work her foot through to. Easier said than done, especially from here.
Let's have a look at Maya. There's our wall-mounted view down onto that. And there, right next to it, is men's 2.
Yeah, massively stressful for positions there for Maya Madeira. Super steep section. Really fighting on those side pulls. Route setter Jamie Cassidy was talking us through. It was one of the easy ones of the round, but it looks absolutely cool if you ask me, and but the level is so high.
Great to be back at the World Cups, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to say it feels like a very long waiting for the first Boulder World Cup of the season, and yeah, the hype is just awesome everywhere.
It's great to see Jakob Schubert celebrating with his customary pull-up on the top hold. Are we about to see it at the top of women's 1? Now Nakamura just trying to figure out how to use those bolt-on holds.
Yeah, she did well there. She's managed to get a foot swap. Dropped her quite low on the volume. Looked like she was in a good position temporarily. Yeah,
Albon Levier men's 2. We couldn't see him on the shot earlier. I wondered if he might have topped the boulder and we hadn't seen it, but no, he hasn't. And he's got 20 seconds to do it, and he's not going to do it. So Albon, not a great start to today's semi-final. As I say, there are plenty of time
It's going to be really interesting. We talked a little bit at the top of the show about the conditions and the friction and the heat, and Shauna Coxey especially yesterday was saying that the flat hold and cheat holds are the plastic material that they are made out of really did affect her tour, and she felt like that affects the climbers coming out later on. Bizarrely enough, because she struggled yesterday, she's actually in a pretty good position coming out quite early. But it's going to be, as always with these modern World Cups, it's going to be interesting to see if the heat in the arena, the sun is out here, it's shining on the roof, the conditions, what are the chalk build up, and the mats here do not have some sort of carpet cover, so that you get a lot of dirt ground into the starting holds, and there's a lot of very small footholds are there with conditions, and may suffer, but everyone's in the same game.
Just to let you know, out onto men's one and women's one, Baptiste Omets and Berit Schweiger respectively. Baptiste, the first Swiss climber in this semi-final, just got a very warm welcome out. Aya is out onto women's two, and she's been spat off women's two. Manuel Cornu onto men's two. We're getting to that stage already where the mats suddenly look very full. There is Baptiste. To say, very partisan Swiss crowd, as you hope and expect. He's getting encouragement. Manuel Cornu didn't need much encouragement on men's one. Shot up it and looking pretty promising on men's two as well. Quite a powerful boulder, this one.
Yeah, it's really steaming through this bottom section. Interesting use of the knee on the left-hand side there, just to get his body in the right position before pushing out to the zone hold.
He's an absolute warrior, Manuel Cornu. It's when he gets on the wall, it's like going to war. He is coming exhausted, every bit of his strength, and he's hard here. It's hard to tell from this angle, but it's a pretty steep section of the wall right there, and it requires a lot more energy just staying on that boulder than it might initially appear. But we're about to see a top. See how hard he's fighting. He's grimacing, reaches for the top with one hand, needs a second hand to join it, and just peels off.
So much body tension required there. He knew that he was in a spot above her, but he just tried to kind of just clamp down on the left-hand hold, on the finish hold, and you could see that he knew he had to release the feet, and the hold was just not quite good enough. The wall was just too steep to hold that position, but with 2 minutes 45 or so seconds left, I think he's in for a good shout there. He had a really good method, sort of going again twice with the right hand.
Here's Berit. Oh, just slipping.
Good method, like we're saying, stepping through with the right foot. She seems to have found what seems to be a bigger foothold than everybody else who's tried that boulder so far. She's obviously very happy on her feet. Like we said earlier, a lot of classic climbs so far there through yesterday's qualifiers and into today. A lot more sort of classic power problems, a lot of holds, a lot of different options. Not too many circus tricks.
Just over 2 minutes left in the round, and then we'll have our first chance to have a look at men's three and women's three. Meanwhile, as I mentioned earlier, hard to tell. This section of the wall, about 30 degrees overhang that Aya and Manu are on. Manu, I think quite sensibly taking a fairly long rest. He's already the zone in the bag, so this is for the top. Might change tactics slightly, this change in emphasis in the rules, where zones are what we used to call a bonus hold, now called a zone, is much more important in the score. There's no tops for him and no zones either. Already out of the top 6.
It certainly wouldn't be the first time a competition result has been decided on a slab. It proves that the climbers really have to work on all of the skills required to get through these tours, modern tours. They have included a couple of big slabs here in the new wall in Meiringen, and that's great. Variety in the styles.
Tomoaki Takata men's 1, and Fanny Gibert is on to women's 1. Now she is a real climber to watch. She's looked in absolutely superb form earlier on this season. She looks in really good shape. She's my tip for a big result at some stage this season. Inching away left, heading up for that zone volume on women's 1.
Interestingly enough, it's actually the Japanese athletes who seem to be struggling a little bit on men's number 1. I do wonder why. It's all on site, these boulders, so they couldn't have discussed them before, but Fanny Gibert is looking really good now. Seems to be on the right hand side, the clamp.
This is excellent for Fanny Gibert, the reigning French champion. Looked in wonderful pre-season form. And already, less than 2 minutes into the first semi-final of the year, she looks to be converting that to World Cup form. No top for her, but she will be very encouraged by those. She probably won't be aware, of course, that not many climbers have had women's 1.
Interestingly, the right-hand hold that Kokuro's got there is the same as the women's finish hold, and the way he's holding it with his thumb wrapped round as a push. Fanny Gibert didn't get the thumb wrapped round, which meant she couldn't hold the tension on that hold. As we have a look at Shauna Coxey on women's number 3, not enjoying that very much. Route setters were 1-2 flick. Looks like we got another top.
Top from Kaci Kadic. Here's Baptiste for him and the crowd. If we could claim a top, this boulder been topped by 2 out of the climbers who've attempted it before. Baptiste just slips off. That right foothold that he's creeping over towards on the black volume, there's actually no texture on that. It's slippery on all sides.
Yeah, there's one hold in this, that's from flat hold that basically has no texture at all. Everyone assumed it was. They seem to have screwed it on twice here during the men's comp. Once as a starting hand hold, I think it's men's number 2, it's starting hand hold, and then as a foot hold volume. And yeah, you can't complain about texture decreasing through the round there because it basically doesn't start with any texture.
There it is, that's a whole positive, but there's absolutely no friction. You really have to push down on it. Stick your foot on there and forget about it. You've got to really put some through it.
Fanny Gibert back into this great position that she managed to the right hand flipped under. Now she's got to get this pinch that I was talking about for the top hold. Get the there. Couldn't find the position so successfully on a previous. And Coxey's back on women's. Know what to do with this women's 3 at the moment. No joy for anybody on that. That's better for Sean. He's managed to go statically, dragging a left toe underneath that. We saw the route setters doing, maintaining the left toe on that big white hold underneath.
Kokoro getting some big encouragement from the crowd. You can see the sheer strength in him. That is not a great hold. Perhaps just rush that final move, and he is absolutely furious with himself. We've seen Kokoro Fuji's not a calm and collected guy. Not looking at here in Meiringen and Baptiste Omertz. Come on, Mr. Cameraman, zoom out a little bit more. See that? There it is. Just needs to creep up. He'll get a good cheer if he gets this. Less than 40 seconds to go, and it's quite a slow process getting. So this will almost certainly be an attempt.
Again, he went for the method that Jakob successfully having the right foot on that top hold. Emmanuel Coleman and Alban Levier, it's all about the left foot on that top into the grooves. We go back to Shauna Coxey. Nice work with the left toe underneath. Shauna struggling. Another boulder here.
Yeah, she got the second boulder first go, but that's her only top so far. Yene Kruder, respect from him. Max height, maximum emotion. Great climber to watch, but he doesn't get men's 2.
Just going back to Kokoro Fuji there, just the power scream and just the frustration on the mat. I think because he's fallen off the 2 finish holds so far in this tour. The reigning champion, that must be really tough for him to kind of have to deal with, and you can see the frustrations really coming out for the Japanese athlete.
Once again, a positive experience earlier on. Charlie Bosco and Mike Langley in 2018 season is underway. In IFSC history, surely the good semi-final here. The women's boulders perhaps slightly overcooked with a lot of tops. Look at all with Shauna Cox on the mats on 3. She's got one more to go.
Yeah.
This is Petra Klingler.
Yeah, exactly what I was about to say, and after her it's Janja Garnbrett, so we're going to see if the bowl looks very, very swiftly, I think. Yesterday's qualifying tour really kind of on the order a little more than we were expecting, and I'm not sure if that's just the 2018 season thing or it was just the boulders yesterday. It's really hard to tell what it was, but it's really
His clean top, if you can in a way to match that top hole. Is he beginning to peel off? Oh, you can see how tenuous it is.
really hard to watch, just the struggle. In fact, there's no hold there at all. Down to whether you can control this field. Men's number 4, just got to find the right method. There's no point in looking around because there's base there. Seems to be looking to see if he can get a foot swap and a better body position. There he gets the left foot on. Oh, it's a really great angle to see what he's up against. It is a dual texture hole. Not much area of friction there, but once he gets the left foot on, he seems to be in a much better position done. That was really clever climbing there. He could take the moment just to think about what was wrong and adjust and find another top. Men's number 1.
Yoshiyuki Ogata, absolutely a man to keep an eye on, perhaps keep an eye on list. Rounder won the men's and men's boulder in Innsbruck in the Youth World Championship last year. And it was second in the Olympic format. So, as I say, he is top of the keep an eye on list for this season. Misha Picoluas, you might remember, had a very good performance in Tokyo back in 2016.
Yeah, no tops for him so far in this round, semi-final round, and Patrick Klinger is another one. There's too many to watch for. Everyone's, the field these days is deep. It's incredible. Not enjoying the slab too much there, though.
I'm not entirely sure how Petra's still on the wall. Seemed to completely lose her balance. Stick with it, kind of went to the right, then came back leftward to treat.
You can actually see on the bottom of her shoes a huge amount of dust build up from the mats and sorts of climbs. That is not a good thing. Luckily, it's on her heels there, so it's certainly not going to need her heels on this slab. You do see some of the athletes, Shauna especially, has bringing out the towel to clean the boots, and you do more friction. There's a perfect example there. Jan Hoyer just using his hand to wipe the left toe, and yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the judge is going to have a chat with him about that, because that is definitely not a starting control. And controlling the hands is an update to the rule book this year as well as the zones.
Melanie Sando, this is women's 4. Again, amount on. You can see Leah Craig around there fighting hard on women's 3. Just being spat off. Ditto Misha Mccoll.
Great effort here. We have seen one top on this boulder already, but just seems to power out there. Run out of oxygen pretty much at the top of that boulder. Leah Crane walks again. Women's number 3, not seeing much happen. That is an extremely hard boulder, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Janja on that one in a few minutes' time once she works her way through the first few boulders. What would you say then, Charlie? Everything going as we expect in the competition?
Yeah, women's boulders perhaps slightly hard, but we've still got so many climbers to come. It's perhaps early to make a judgment. Men's boulders, the level looks pretty good. Perhaps slightly too easy, but without this being particularly picky. We haven't had a climb with 4 tops yet. Jakob Schubert looked more than capable of doing it, but just didn't get on with that final slab. But yeah, I think in the men's, you'd have to be pretty harsh to say they haven't got it spot on. In the women's, time will tell, but perhaps looking slightly hard at this stage. But it's interesting results. It's good when you get the finals mixed up sometimes. You get some surprise names in there. We'd expect this woman on women's one to be in any final. Janja Garnbret. I've reached the limits of my English vocabulary finding words to describe Janja Garnbret, so we'll stick with plain old statistics. Before this World Cup, she'd entered 26 World Cups or World Championships across lead and boulder. She'd missed one final and missed 3 podiums. So in 26 World Cups or World Championships, 23 podiums.
Yeah, we were
bad.
just
And she said to me the other day that she has to miss some of the Boulder World Cups this year because she's finishing off her high school exams.
Yeah, we were just cruising through her statistics last night, and it was, frankly, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Jone Kruder seems to be putting on a pretty good turn so far.
Yeah, he looks in good shape, Jone, and he looks up for it as well. Really keen for the fight. He's always keen for a battle, and it looks like he might be claiming a top. Yes, he is. A big scream. Never in any doubt, really, what's going through Jone Kruder's mind.
Yeah, made the finals here last year, looking to repeat that. Oh, Fanny Gibert head flies back as she hits that and manages to find a position to match the finish hold really easily. And Janja Garnbret's also looking really good, so the competition's really hotting up now. Will we see our first top on women's number one? She's desperately trying to find something there too. Got to just pounce off that hold and use it temporarily to fire up the finish hold. Hits the pinch nicely. First top, and no surprises, it's Janja Garnbret.
She continues to rewrite the rule books. Of course, smashed the best ever total for combined ranking points in the 2017 season. Missed the final for the first time in Senior World Cup and World Championship career in Vale, but it was the only blip on an otherwise extraordinary year. She won't be competing for the overall Boulder World Cup title in 2018. I mentioned she's got exams to do at school, but she'll be doing a full lead season. It's great to see her here in Meiringen. She's, in just the space of a couple of years, become one of the main stars in the climbing world.
Just off shot. Look at, it's Tuomaki gets a nice top. Yeah, men's number one's looking kind of like a must-have boulder really, but Shauna Coxey walked off the stage. Another top, so she's currently in P4 zones.
She's got a nervous weight. She's not used to that, Shauna. She's used to climbing pretty near the end of a semi-final, finishing off and being pretty sure she's made the final. She's got a nervous weight. 2 tops and 4 zones for her. We shall see. You can see the scores on the top left of your screen there. It's currently Great Britain 1 and 2. Awfully long way to go though. We're just over halfway. Janja Garnbret and Ray Sugimoto, who we saw in men's 1. 12 climbers out. There's a top there for Kokoro.
Yeah, nice job once again.
Yeah, it's not at the semi-finals though. Not quite looked in the zone. Made a couple of mistakes, and he knew there were mistakes at the time. So the climber goes back in, and they're a bit puzzled because they never found the key way of doing the move. But Kokoro knew he'd made mistakes on a couple of the boulders. Currently sitting in 4th place. I have to say at this stage that's almost certainly not going to be enough to make the final when you look at who's still to come, but he may just get lucky. Catch it. Kadic is out on the mats. Ditto Tomoaki Takata. 7 Japanese men in today's semi-final after 20 athletes.
Yeah,
50 seconds to go on the rotation.
Tuomaki finding a really good method here. He's not someone you see too often at the World Cups, but has bags of talent. Seems to have found a really good method here without even going hand footholds. Doesn't use the bridge position that we saw so successfully Schubert earlier. Doesn't need it at all. But maybe he'll have a rethink to try and get that right foot out, try and position for the finish hold. And again, women's free causing all sorts of problems.
So light on tops in the competition. If you are just joining us, or if you were experiencing problems with the audio earlier on, apologies for that. As ever, you can get in touch, hashtag IFSCWC, and Mike Langley and I discussed earlier, I hope you heard it, but perhaps not, that we do have a slight change to the scoring system this year. What used to be referred to as the bonus hold is now the zone, and there's also a change in emphasis. The number of tops is still the most important measurement, but second now is the number of zones attained. It used to be how many attempts the tops took you, how many zones you get, and then it comes down to attempts. So we've still got the same 4-tiered scoring system, and effectively they're the same measurements, but there's a change in emphasis and importance between the 4 measurements. So as I say, number of tops still reigns supreme as the most important measurement, but number of bottoms is the second most important.
We saw that had a small effect on some of the results yesterday. Some, it was in the women's category especially, I can't remember the names exactly, but there was a couple of spots were just slightly different due to the importance of the different elements of the system changing. But it doesn't seem to have a huge impact, but we may start, as I said earlier, as people rushing for a zone hold just at the death and making the most of their 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's possibly the change we'll see. If a climber didn't think they could do the boulder back in the day, they didn't want to burn up too many attempts, whereas nowadays we might see a climber racing onto a boulder with 10 seconds to go, aiming only for a zone, just because they're that bit more important than they used to be. Leah Crane currently sitting in second. She's on 4. She can't displace Shauna Coxey in provisional first place because she failed to get the zone on women's 1. This is Leah I'm talking about. Shauna got the zone, but she could cement what's looking a very promising second place in the early standings. Misha Pekolruaz looks slightly frustrated with his attempts earlier on. 1 zone for him, that was on boulder 1, and no tops.
Interesting to see where Hoyer down to men's number 4, but to me that position that you've got to get in to match that finish hold seems to be a little bit tricky if you're a bit taller. You seem to be all bunched up in the corner, and there's a lot of limbs going on there all of a sudden if you are a taller athlete, and it seems to be quite hard to find the right body position. Obviously it's all very critical as to use the left foot or the right foot on that top hold, but we're going to see later on.
Yeah, look at Manuel Corno, he was trying to reach, he was trying to pinch the top of the volume, so obviously no problem with actually reaching the hold. Close and Petra Klingler there. Yeah, no problems reaching the hold. So as you say, Jan's height you suspect would be a disadvantage on that slab.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising not to see Petra towards the top of that. She still has got a bit of time, but you can't help but think that women's number 2 is going to be super critical to whether you make through to the finals here. Along with number 4, I think those are going to be the 2. Do those is not really much hope that you're going to make it through to the finals.
Petra Klingler made every final last year in the Boulder World Cups, apart from the 2 Chinese ones earlier on. Chongqing and Nanjing will be back in Chongqing in about 3 weeks' time. She also got a European bronze medal in Munich in 2017. So it's our first good look at Giorgia Tessio of Italy. Tomoa Narasaki, the familiar figure. Men's 1, you can see him there right hand side of your screen. He looks like he's kind of dynoing at all times. Whenever he's moving, he's bouncing. Let's see how he takes on men's 1. Cut away. Let's have a look at Jan Hoyer then and Mia Krampel.
Great move, smashing up to that flat hold volume with the right hand for there in the women's competition, but seems to be the next move that we've not really seen anything on at all, and it's really crucial to the toe hooks, and Mia Krampel seems to enjoy the left toe a bit higher than what we saw Shauna. Shauna's really was closest to that move from anybody we've seen. She had the toe hook on the bottom right hand of that big white hold. Seems to be a desperately hard position to make progress through, unfortunately. Women's 3 undone so far.
Looking forward to seeing Akia Noguchi on that women's 3, because with her extra height, I wonder if she can just keep that left toe in place as she goes up for the zone. We shall see. Yoshiyuki Ogata, men's 2.
Another massively confusing boulder, I think. A certain athlete seems to have found the path of least resistance through here without too many problems, but some of the guys just seem to be absolutely at sea with these big pinches. And one thing to remember is this is a completely new set of carved holds for these guys. They won't be aware of what they're up against until they go up there and grab them, so it's quite interesting. It adds a really interesting element to the semi-final round.
So nothing yet on women's 1 apart from Janja Garnbret, who climbed earlier than we might expect in today's semi-final. Majority of climbers getting the zone. Leah Crane missed it, as so far is Giorgia Tessio, and Aya Ono also missed it. I think Giorgia surely controlled hold. I think we'll be awarded the zone for that. Awkward looking fall as well. So time up for her, 5 minutes begins. So the climbers we've just had on the stage disappear. They get 5 minutes to rest. Climbers back out onto the mats, Yanya Garnbrett, the familiar figure of Jongwon Chon, also on the mat. Chloe Collier is out onto women's one as well.
Can't help but think that Yana should find this boulder relatively easy. If she's in as good a shape as we believe her to be, that'll put her in a fantastic position up there with Shauna Coxey at the top of the pile. 2 tops because she found the first top and the only top of women's number 1. To see her in the background there, top left on the red holds.
Yeah, we're at that stage now. The results are coming in fast. It's currently Shauna Coxey followed by Fanny Gibert at this very early stage at the top of the women's ranking. Almost not worth looking at the scores until we've had a few more people completing their rotation, but just to give you some idea, Shauna Coxey currently leading the way with 2 tops. Yan now has 2 tops. Will confirm the number of attempts, and that could be critical.
2 in 3 behind Shauna, but she's still got 2 boulders to go.
This is Jerne Kruder. He would be looking good if he can top this.
So we've talked about this already, but just the position of the feet, the order of which you stand on that hold. Jerne Kruder is definitely one of the bigger athletes in the competition.
Yeah, he flashed boulders 1 and 3, so getting number 4 would put him in a very, very strong position. Jongwon Chon, winning overall World Cup champion, also won the World Cup overall title in 2015, said he feels strong when I chatted to him yesterday, which is quite ominous coming from him. His definition of strong really is strong. Crosses through, no problem at all. That boulder's looked quite hard, and we've seen some world-class climbers, including Kokoro Fujin, struggling on it. No such issues for Jongwon Chon.
I think there was a huge sense of relief. Just that you can see the puff of the cheeks, like, okay, nerves out of the way. I've got 1 boulder in the bag.
I always think it must be tricky. We've seen the women coming straight out onto a slab. It must be hard with all that adrenaline pumping. Your first chance where you see the crowd, you see the light, and suddenly you've got to dial it all down and climb a slab. It's tricky. The men are straight into something a bit more physical. Yeah, also, I think that's quite a long boulder. It climbs quite slowly, so you can't really afford too many attempts on it. Look at Fanny Gibert from women's number 3. Gets the toe hooks going nicely. She's looking incredible shape so far and goes slowly, uses a bit of extra reach up to the zone hole, but drops the left hand down, but again looking pretty confused up there. Yeah, it looked quite promising for Fanny. She was able to do that move very statically. I think the problem is that the right hand zone hold is actually really bad vertical sort of, barely call it a pinch, but it's kind of a slot on the as a layaway slot, and yeah, you really need to move dynamically through that section to have a chance of holding the 2 holes together. Great foot swap there from Chloe Collier. That was a really good effort. Stage pretty full here in Meiringen. We've got 8 boulders, pretty much all of them occupied at this stage. Got a couple of tops in this rotation, but still pretty busy. 2 Slovenians side by side, Katja Kadic on the right and Jerne Kruder closest to the camera. Just chucks the brusher out the way and he's back on. Let's see what happens with Jerne this time then. Men finding no real issues through the bottom. A few guys just dropping it with a few foot slips. Let's see if he's had an opportunity to sit back, have a think about his method with the feet. Logically, it makes sense to step through with the right foot because that's the foot sequence, but getting into all sorts of trouble in the corner. You're trying to release that left foot or leave it where it is. You make all these decisions on the hoof whilst in quite a tenuous position. Now this looks promising from Jerne. Which hand will he lead with? He leads with the right, tries to cross through. As soon as he moved the right hand, you could see his balance went. Yeah, you could see how big he looked in that corner. His left leg was completely bent. And other athletes, I think it was Kai Harada earlier, looked perfect size for that move. And Jerne, on a slab, you really want to have straight legs where possible, forcing the heels down and getting a lot of weight through the shoes and through the holds. And yeah, Jerne Kruder just looked massive up there. Chloe Collier secures the zone hold in women's number 1. Even just securing the zone on that problem puts you in a relatively good position. Yeah, the quick step up with the left foot rather than the right foot there. I'm just looking at the vast majority of climbers. So far only 2 climbers missed the zone on boulder 1, but it's only had 1 top, so I think it's going to be more than feasible to make the women's final with just getting a zone on that first boulder. Jerne steps up again, then goes with the right foot option. Didn't like the left foot before. Needs to be quick here, he's going to run out of time, he's timed out. That's a bit of a heartbreaker for Jerne. It's decent round for him though. Currently sitting in third place, he shakes his head. Sandra Lettner of Austria, she's already qualified for the Youth Olympic Games in Aries in October. Interesting to see how it goes this season as Sergei Topishko of the Ukraine is climbing on men's 1.
In theory, we're going through the semi-finals from weakest to strongest, but obviously it never really works out like that. And going to stick my neck out on the line here. I think Jakob Schubert's definitely going to have done enough with 3 tops. He's got 3 tops in 7 attempts, 4 zones in 8. And looking at some of the competitors we've had through the round so far, I think he might be in a pretty solid position.
Sergei pulling on to men's 1. And as I say, Sandra Lettner, youth climbing superstar, won the combined Youth A in Innsbruck 2017 Youth World Championships. Meiringen is her first Senior World Cup.
And that's a big change for 2018, as it is a big change for every start of the season when the next generation through, they're eligible to compete in the seniors, and someone like Sandra Lettner is an incredible talent, and all of a sudden she's adds to the list of names of incredible climbers in the senior competition.
Georgia lining it up on women's 2, close but no cigar. Now we were discussing Jan Hoyer's prospects on men's 4.
Yeah, Jan Hoyer in one of the pre-season competitions, the Climbing Works International Festival in the UK. He didn't make the finals there based on men's number 1, which was a slab. He couldn't complete the slab and didn't get through, and that was a real upset. So he's obviously not a huge fan of the slabs. I know he has been working on that a lot.
Yeah, he certainly last year seems to have improved what was deemed a weakness, and that's the top on men's 3, Yoshiyuki Ogawa. Yeah, he's been working on what always was deemed to be his weakness, which was slabs, but still, I think it'd be fair to say not his favourite genre. And Petra Klingler there. No joy yet on the women's 3 for her. Got a very warm welcome from the crowd, as you'd expect. Yeah, this is a slightly familiar sight already. The women hands on hips, looking up at women's 1. Only Janja Garnbret has topped it so far.
Yeah, Janja Garnbret really showing that she doesn't really have any weaknesses. We're looking forward to seeing her on women's 3 next, I believe. No tops so far in women's 3. It's we look at the moment, and it's worth noting the quality of this bottom section. It's really hard just to make your way through so many different options, all based around releasing a right toe hook. You can see it down there on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. The right toe hook on the red volume releases it and have to do a lot of things at once all of a sudden, and we've seen a lot of different methods through there, and yeah, well set men's number 1.
So Jan, what do you do with this? As it stands, he's down in 10th. Looked incredibly good on men's 1. Nothing since. No joy, no zones, no tops since then. So absolutely needs this if he wants to stand a chance of making the final. It doesn't look very good. Here is women's 3, the only boulder in the semi-final across the men's and women's that is yet to see a top. Petra fighting hard. Great. Petra fully fit. Had a few problems with injuries over the past couple this year. She only did 2 ice climbing World Cups. It's perhaps helped to keep her injury free. Samoa Narasaki, 2016 World Cup overall winner. This is men's 2, heading out towards that zone volume.
I have to say, men's 2 looks absolutely desperate, and it's really interesting if you ever get a chance to come to the World Cup, come and see these boulders up close and personal, because they are it's a mind-blowing level of how good these competitors really are. And yeah, men's number 2 certainly up there with some of the hardest we've seen for a long time.
Sandra Lettner just through. Yeah, occasionally at the end of the competitions I do have a go on the boulders. Sometimes do the first move and then just clean run out of talent after that.
Jan Hoyer here on men's number 4 has made a number of slightly basic mistakes. He just seems to be wobbling quite a bit through the feet, really struggling. Every time his palm greases across one of those dual texture smooth bits of the holds, just seems to kind of fall off just by wobbling slightly, and this is a real shame.
Yeah, and he's also rushed his climb, which means he now is in a rush because he's short on time. I think if he'd really just eased his way into that last attempt, he'd have been okay, but he gives up. It won't be enough. He's not even in the top 6 at this stage, so we won't be seeing Jan Hoyer in the final. Last man to win a Boulder World Cup back in August. He will not be winning this one here in Meiringen. We're in the Boulder Arena in the Hasseltal Valley. What a beautiful setting it is. Competition is indoors, but outside the sun is shining and the mountains looking beautiful. But I have to say, there's not many people out on the street because they're all inside watching the climb.
Here we go then, this is definitely one to watch. Janja Garnbret, we've been looking forward to this moment. She seems to be on form female athlete so far. Women's number 3, no tops. Not really anybody making anything of women's number 3.
Olsa is climbing on women's 1. And Rubsov is on men's 1.
Janja Garnbret then up to the right hand black volume. Seems to have found that no problems at all. Is actually using a left heel there. Is she going to release it in to get the height up to the zone hold? Nicely done. This is it then from Janja Garnbret.
Yeah, Janja looking so solid, but just launched up with the left hand. Full commitment, but didn't quite work. But might perhaps look for an alternative method. Alexei Rubsov, great to see him climbing again. Just thinking about that black screw on. He just needs to go up with the left hand and use the black screw on with the right to stop the swing. Or if you're as strong as him, there is no swing.
Yeah, crimping down the back of that hold he's standing on with his right foot.
Top from Chloe Collier. Are we about to see a top from Alexei Rubsov? Yes, we are. Good start from him. Top's number 1. Second here last year and first in 2016. Alexei Rubsov clearly likes climbing in the Hasseltal Boulder Arena. Top's coming thick and fast now.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first tops we've seen from Tomaki Takata there. He's off the right, seems to be a athlete, and that seems to have worked well for him.
That's Rei Sugimoto on the left there, as you just saw in the graphic, M3. Big climber, big powerful climber, and looked pretty in control on what is a small hold. No problems. Be interesting to go back and watch his first attempt on that actually, because he absolutely on that go.
Yeah, watching Janja now on women's number 3, she's probably the on-form athlete here. I mean, we've still got a number of very strong female athletes to come, but it looks like women's 3 is just overcooked. It looks too hard. But this is the semi-final round. Hard is basically exactly what we need. It's got to be hard. It's got to get the split. This will be the hardest round probably of the competition.
We say it so often, but route setting is the impossible job. You've got to put on a show, give lots of variety so that climbers of different shapes and sizes and preferences all feel they've had a fair crack, and also achieve separation, because the last thing we want is the wrong number of climbers going through to the final. We want 6 men, 6 women. The route setter's got an extremely tough job, and as I say, the women's boulder's certainly hard, particularly this third one, but they seem to have got the level pretty much spot on, certainly in the men's, not too far off in the women's despite our initial concerns.
Well, it's easy to say it's too hard, but it's also sometimes the route setters will use as a bit of a gauger. They'll put something in they know is possibly too hard, but they'll use that and say, right, that's our benchmark, that's too hard. So when it comes to taking these boulders off and putting the final on, they can use that as a kind of tool to work out the level.
Let's have a look at Bear, currently sitting in 3rd place. Looked very strong, particularly on boulder 2. She got that first go. Nothing yet on boulder 4.
Yeah, opting to try and use that volume as an undercut rather than kind of flying over and then switching it to an undercut. Let's see if that works for.
Interesting point on the women's score, Mike. The top 6 as it stands, of course, it's still easy, but the top 6 all got boulder 2. So it would appear that if you want to place in the final, that's a must. Top on boulder 2 for the women. Solsat, nothing yet on women's 1. And if Janja Garnbret doesn't get this women's 3, will anyone get it? New method from her.
Totally different method using the left heel. This looks a lot more promising, but stops up a little bit short. The amount of force flying over to the right-hand side is quite incredible. She seems to be actually quite enjoying herself. She probably doesn't know at this stage that there's a high chance that boulder to progress into the finals, but Janja Garnbret, she is out there to fight and out there to climb.
I think the route setters would love to see her get it. They want every boulder at least once. Let's have a look at Fanny Gibert, women's 4. As I mentioned earlier, really looking good, French national champion. Solsat not getting on too well with women's 1. I wonder if she might just call that a day. There's Jongwon Chom. men's 2.
Yeah, surprised not to have a top here from John Monchon at the moment. This boulder's not been topped recently at all, so is there a question mark over the chalk build-up, or is it just desperately hard?
Yeah, it was only Jakob Schubert who's got it so far. We've had a lot of tough moments. We've had one hand on the top hold, not converted.
No top from Jan. You're on women's number 3 also. Interesting, someone like Stasha coming out quite soon as well. The top qualifier from the qualification round looked on very fine form yesterday.
Now this is a climber in the grey vest that we're looking forward to seeing, Nathaniel Coleman. He really is looking in absolutely top form. He got 2 second places in the World Cups in 2015 and was 4th overall, but on a world level we haven't seen much of him since. That said, he's won the last 2 US Bouldering National Open Championships, so he's not exactly let himself go, but we haven't seen him in many World Cups, and he looked absolutely superb in the qualifying round yesterday. Certainly a climber that a lot of people here are very interested to see. Miho Nanaka there, closest to the camera. She's on women's 1. No World Cup wins for her last season, despite a fantastically consistent season.
Great stand-up method there. Miho had a good time on the slab in that same bit of wall yesterday.
Saki tops men's 3, so all the men's boulders top. We got over that hurdle quite early on. It's still nothing on women's 3. Yeah, I was saying Miho Nanaka won in Munich and Mumbai in 2016, and last year extraordinary. 5 podiums but no wins.
Miho looking for the foot swap option there. At the moment we've seen its best progress by stepping through the right foot as we cut to women's 2 and women's 3.
Yeah, this is Georgia Tessio trying her luck on women's 3. You can't help but fear that when an in-form Janja Garnbret doesn't get it done, it might not be done women's 3, but when you think still to attempt it is a fairly strong field, we do still stand. So here he is, Nathaniel Coleman.
Yeah,
brilliant in qualifiers, as I said.
Nathaniel Coleman amongst the struggle bus that is the bottom of men's number 1. Really complicated sequence, and a great barn door around the corner.
Yeah, it looked as if he'd spotted that black bolt on that he needed, but perhaps not. Here's Yoshiyuki on men's 4. Petra Klingler, that you can see there on the right hand side of his shot, just above. Currently on women's 4.
It's incredibly stable at the start of this problem at all. She's making progress through to the zone, has been a problem so far, as with most of the athletes who got to this stage. She's incredibly good slab climber.
Inching her way up. She's got more than half her time left.
We've seen some progression on that boulder using what's known in the coaching game as an air flag. It's just releasing the right foot off the volume and just sort of stemming it up the wall, not on any hold.
Can provide a surprising amount of stability.
Yeah.
For reasons I don't quite understand from a physics point of view.
The
but
lesser known air flag.
I think it was Einstein who wrote about that. So Petra getting on with number 4 just yet. Nathaniel Coleman. Men's 1, as Mike said, on the struggle bus. It's such an awkward section. When you're standing underneath the boulder and having a look at the holes, it doesn't seem that complicated, but you can see from the number of methods we've seen and how many top climbers have struggled with it, it's just a complicated boulder, which is clever route setting because there's not that many holes.
Well, and it's a classic test of climbing. Not only do you need to be strong enough to climb the boulder, you need to be wise enough and intelligent enough and good enough at route reading to be able to get through it efficiently as well. And it's really tough sometimes to come out and just not be able to find the method. Great body positions that Nathaniel Coleman's managed to get himself in here, though.
He looks relatively stable. I wonder if he's going to just pop up again with the right hand. I think he might. Now he just needs the left hand. He needs to get the bolt on above that. You have the right idea, wrong hold.
Yeah, you can see from the smile, slight grit of the teeth, he knows that's the right method now. He's just got to get through that bottom section a lot quicker. Hopefully he's found a method, but something so complicated like that, sometimes there isn't, you don't really feel like there's a method. You just go up there and start feeling it out and start working your way through.
Yeah, it's had 9 tops, men's 1, so Robbie needs to get it done. Miho, 30 seconds for her. getting plenty of encouragement. The Boulder Arena here in the Hasseltau filling up nicely. 20 seconds to go. When so many climbers in pretty good position, and it's just so awkward to then transition into overhanging terrain.
Yeah,
Tessio again not enjoying women's 3, as none of the climbers have. You can see Petra Klingler. No, she's not going to get number 4 done.
I was going to say, Miho did manage to find that right foot step through. Even in that position, she couldn't transfer the weight onto it too much because that zone hold is so bad. And still only one top and wins number 1 as Jan Garn did find that top, moves onto her final boulder, women's number 3.
And you can see there, Petra Klingler sadly will not be progressing to the final. It's a shame for the Swiss crowd and for her. She's injury free, but not done enough, no tops. You can see there, Jakob Schubert set that high mark earlier on, and it still stands. Lexi Rubsov climbing again. You can see there, we just saw him briefly, Roland Rugens. Really good to have him back. Struggled with injury last year. But he's back.
This is the sort of boulder that we could see Jongwon Chon really find his party piece. He's an absolute beast on this sort of style of overhanging problems. Slight left hand slip there, but maintains the position with no real issues, and carrying a large amount of tape as is normal with Chon. So good on the crimp, such a light climber. Just finding the position now and just fires off actually. That's quite surprising. Calls for the brush. Obviously finding the conditions out there quite tough at the moment. Jongwon Chon.
The familiar figure of Akio Noguchi. He's on women's 1, 4-time overall Boulder World Cup champion. She just knows how to do this stuff.
Yeah, another athlete who's just got an incredible set of results under her name on the IFSC website. If you ever got a spare 10 minutes, have a kind of peruse of that. It's really, really impressive.
Are we about to see the second top of women's 1? She's looking very controlled, very neat, precise.
Interestingly, he goes for the roll over with the right hand, but seems to have something out of that hold where others couldn't find anything at all, and that surely is the most impressive top.
That is extraordinary from Akio Noguchi. We've seen world-class climbers stop dead by that boulder. Walked up it, that never really looked in doubt.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe she was on a different boulder to everybody else, because that was just like a completely different set of holes, and what an awesome slab climber. But brilliant on the feet, and obviously has the perfect shoe choice for that boulder.
Rollins, we just saw him briefly, as I was saying, struggled with injury last year. Really good to have him back. Chloe Collier down, women's 3. Jongwon Chon. Black tape on men's 3. Yeah, Akio Noguchi, Mike, you dug up a good stat about her yesterday. 31st is her worst ever World Cup finish, and that was World Cup. Extraordinary consistency.
Chon on the top of men's number 3 then. This is where he fired off last time. Exactly, that was almost an instant replay there. Chon struggling, Rugen struggling as well. Again, really suffering through that confusing bottom section.
Lexi Rubsov always seems to go well here in Meiringen. 1 win, 1 second place, his result list. Hasseltau. Ray Sugimoto on number 4. Back to Alexi, that's Sol left. Getting to the stage. We're beginning to get a picture of who might be in the finals.
Well, I think Jakob Schubert, his ascent of men's number 2 has really shown what sort of level and fitness and strength that he is currently in, because he is obviously the only top of that. We saw one other climber getting quite close, but it's really Jakob Schubert who looks like really dominating this semi-final round.
Rollins Rugens, second to last hole, that's the top hole he's going for, and he's got it. Big pull up, that means a lot to him. Great start to the semi-final. Don't count him out for a final place. Ray Sugimoto, meanwhile, on men's 4, got a minute left. Heading out to the right. There's the foothold that has absolutely no texture. You've got to really push down. You can see all the muscles off tensing as he pushes down on it. You can't just slap the foot on and leave it.
Opts for the high left foot option there. It's going to be interesting because that would be a good position to be in, but really hard to get into. Pushes up now with the left foot though. That's looking good, and like Charlie said, you can see the force going through his lower leg there.
I'm not sure how he's still on the wall. Actually, we've seen climbers, as soon as that right hand shoots out, they're spat off like that, sadly for Ray. He's close with that one. I think he'll give that another go. No point saving any energy. But the issue will be time. 20 seconds to climb a complicated slab.
Yeah.
Alexei Rubtsov heading back in. No, he is having another go.
Yeah, Jakob Schubert was saying that the men's competition was potentially kind of good to slightly easy, but we've not seen many tops for quite a while now, really. Not crucial ones anyway, and it's Jakob Schubert there, and Ray Sugimoto is going to run out of time here realistically. And yeah, it was a good effort, but it looks like then the number of attempts to zones and the number of attempts to tops is going to be really crucial here.
Yeah, he's currently sitting in 5th place, Ray Sugimoto. You fear that won't be enough to make the final top 6, but you never know. Not much more he can do now. Come around the front of the wall and try to enjoy what he's watching. So Kei Noguchi, big statement of intent in the women's competition. Flash that first boulder. Yuji Fujiwaki, her compatriot, didn't get men's 1 done.
Jessie Pill's really good to see her in a bouldering competition, predominantly a lead climber, but has been training on the bouldering walls in Innsbruck really hard this winter. Seems to have put herself into a really good position, coming through the qualification round in 2nd position. It's Miho just trying to find the body position now, trying to release a little bit of tension off the legs to spring up to the finish hold here. So a few really good tops on this boulder already. Miho goes fast to the finish hold, but it's a good enough hold that she manages to secure the position quite nicely. No real issues in the end for Miho Nanaka.
Interesting, we saw Shauna Cox in both trying to find a comfortable position to go from. Miho found it straight away. Tomoe Narasaki, maybe not his natural habitat, crushed into this corner like that, but it does appear from what we've seen, as you observed quite early on, Mike, it's slightly easier for shorter climbers, and Tomoe is relatively short.
Yeah,
he's
just
got the job done. Judges are giving that one.
Yeah, he was just using his right foot quite wisely there, just sort of just smearing it effectively just on the toe patch on his shoe in the groove that gave him just enough somehow. Sometimes these problems can come down to such minute kind of positions and body positions, foot touches on the wall, and everything just seems to click, and yeah, that was nicely done.
Georgia Tessio. Men's 4. No tops for her so far. 2 zones out of 3 on the previous 3 boulders.
That's a classic example of the air flag that we're describing there earlier from Jessie Pill. Sometimes on the slab, just rising that just helps you move the body weight across to the left, but then she's going to have to bring it back down. And like I said, Kei Noguchi was just on a different boulder there, all of a sudden just seemed to find different footholds altogether.
Nathaniel Coleman, M2, top of this would set him up quite nicely. Jakob Schubert, still the only person to have topped it. It seems as if we've had a lot of climbers come very close. Still only 1 top.
Yeah, Tomoe has flown up the leaderboard with that top on men's number 4. Puts himself in 2nd as we stand with 3 tops.
Yeah, joins a 3 top club, which the previous inhabitant was Jakob Schubert. There's 2 of them now, him and Tomoe. Yuji Fujiwaki. Men's 1, brutally. He looks to be in relative control. It's quite a long way up to that crimp, and it's relatively positive, albeit small, but no problems. Gets it done.
Yeah, nicely done in the end. No real issues on the power department on the left-hand side. Just crimped it down. It looked really, really solid.
It's Jessie Pilz. Team Austria, as Mike and I mentioned earlier, have this extraordinary facility in Innsbruck. It's been called the best climbing gym in the world. And we're going to see Austrians competing in different disciplines than we normally more and more as the Olympics looms. Sandra Lettner on women's 3. Speaking of Austrian climbers, are we about to see women's 3 be done?
That was absolutely incredible. Where that came from, we'll never know. That was just like something else. That was absolutely brilliant. And Sandra Lettner just come through from the youth, come out here and showing that she's got no nerves. The Austrian athlete, absolutely smashed. That was incredibly impressive, and it'd be interesting to see where that puts her, Charlie, because I think
It's fifth right now. That was her fourth attempt on the boulder.
yeah, one more boulder to come, and that sort of power that she's displayed there, you've got to think that this boulder, women's number 4, might be kind of up her street as well. A surprise 2018 finalist.
Yeah, that was amazing. A bit like Kia Noguchi. Just looked, as you said, like she was climbing a different boulder.
But fantastic from the route setter's point of view as well to see a top. It's not an impossible block. It's got done, and yeah, well done. That was awesome.
Yeah, I was slightly nervous when Janja Garnbret didn't get it done, but extraordinary from Sandra Lettner. Coleman just confirmed he didn't get number 2. So we're now on our last climbers. So this is the last time the men's one and women's one in Mccoll Marwem of France. Quite the character, now sporting quite the haircut. You'll see what I mean when we see him. And go out onto women's one. Really looking forward to seeing Stasha climb. It's hard to remember at times. She's not actually done that many World Cups, but made her debut back in 2018. But really a climber capable, I think, of winning a World Cup in the near future.
Yeah, and she starts on a slab, and if you guys at home remember back to the Munich finals, she was the only climber to find a top on, I think it was women's number 3 there in Munich, pure slab climbing. So she's obviously a very talented slab climber, so maybe we'll see another top on women's number 1.
I think we could be about to see a top on women's too. Kia Noguchi looks absolutely imperious today. I'm pretty sure that was the first go on that boulder. We'll confirm in a second.
Yeah, not even the slightest wobble or sort of movement in the hips, nothing, just solid as a rock. As John Won-chon looks for a bit of a cheeky look down the back of the hold to try and find something. He is on the right foot. We've not seen really any successes, too much topping off, holding the right foot, but brilliantly done. Just looks to the cameras.
I think if he blinked, it would have thrown his balance off there. And there we are, Mccoll Marwem, as I say, he's sporting his new haircut, the pineapple look. You see there the zone hold that he's heading for on men's 2. He's trying to figure out how to get himself set. Just the right foot slips and he's back down. Alexei Rubtsov to show his emotions on the wall. And then 3. So this is women's 3, which we've just seen Sandra Lettner absolutely cruise up.
Yeah, I think Sandra Lettner's coach is going to be pretty pleased with that, really. That's just a show of ability more than anything else on women's number 3.
It just never ceases to amaze you when you have boulders that look so difficult to World Cup winners, world champions, and then suddenly Kia Noguchi on women's 1 and Sandra Lettner on women's 3 just stroll out and cruise up it.
Yeah,
right day, right boulder.
Climbing is just such a fascinating game, and it's yeah, it's really been shown at its best here so far in Meiringen.
There's Mccoll Marwem. Again, got the beta correct, a bit like Nathaniel Coleman, but got the wrong hold. That's the way to do it. Right hand up and slap with the left. But the black bolt on, not the blue volume like he went for. So men's 3. Alexei Rubtsov. Had 6 tops already, that boulder.
Interesting method here from Stasha, going for the really wide bridge rather than using the right foot that she's just gone past there. It seems to work for her. She is a slightly taller climber, so maybe she's got the length in the leg to do that, but it's all really about this next section. She's trying to put the power down and the heels down on the right foot. Is she going to find enough out of that volume to step the right foot through? But no, it gets really stretched, the heels come up and the feet ping off.
Here's Alexei fighting hard, trying to be the 7th man to top that boulder. He's got 1 minute and 30 left. He looks like he needs this as well. He's down in 10th right now. Definitely needs at least 1 more. Solsar on the what we thought was impossible women's 3. Turns out if you name Sandra Lettner, it's an absolute path. Still no joy. It's that move getting away from that left toe hook and committing up to that hold on the right. And here's Stasha, as you mentioned, Mike, that boulder in Munich, she was the only person to claim a top on that one.
Yeah.
I remember that, you went out left and then came back right. I just looked desperate from the second your feet left the floor, not dissimilar to women's one here in Meiringen.
Be really interesting to see what her thinking is here, why she's opting not that other foothold. It's probably because she's getting through it without too many issues, seems to have found a good method. Sasha gave a very good route reader. Just the heels popping there and the feet falling off there in a great spin on the helicopter from Webb in the background.
I'm just looking at the results as they come in. Stasha already got the zone. Saw her rushing back to get back on the boulder, so she's going for a top. Nothing for Chloe Collier on women's 4. Stasha's going for the top. She's going to run out of time. Ditto Mccoll. We just saw him fly into the shot from the right there.
Yeah, that's interesting now that Stasha's not got that, so she is going to need to try and find 2 more tops from somewhere to get into her finals. I mean, one top does get you there at the moment, but with a few of the athletes still to put their final scores in, I think it's going to be 2 tops that's going to see you through. So it'd be interesting to see Stasha on 2, 3 and 4. She's got a bit of work to do.
Yeah, that's boulders 1, men's 1 and women's 1 done now. Don't think the brusher got the memo there. There's no one else climbing on it.
It was nice of him to clean it up before putting it back in the cupboard though.
Spoken like a true setter. Let's have a look what Jessie Pilt's can do on women's 2. Yuji Fujiwaki's on men's 2. As Mike mentioned, it's still 1 top, enough to get you into the women's final unless things change dramatically. Letner, with that extraordinary ascent of women's 3, is into the finals as it stands with 1 top. Leah Crane in the worst position away, 7th place, just the 1 top. It's Jessie Pilts. As Mike mentioned earlier, we've seen her be vastly successful in lead World Cups. Good to see her giving the bouldering a go, and I think it's about to see her top. Nicely done, figured out that beater quite quickly, got the right heel hook welded in. It looked easy from there.
I don't think there could be too many complaints from the athletes really going through the round. I think those who didn't make it probably just come down to the boulders on the day just not quite being strong enough or not quite found the method. There was no upset moments as of yet anyway. It just seems to be a very good selection of boulders, really good for getting that separation from the qualifiers, semis and then going into the finals.
Yeah, hard set of boulders. There's 2 men with 3 tops so far, and only 1 woman with 3 tops. Set of boulders.
We were saying earlier, or maybe it's looking a bit easy with the way Jakob went, but it's not turned out to be such the case, and that's really good. You know, it was too easy yesterday, and they've ramped it up. They've learnt the lessons. They've gone away and had a rethink on the boulders, and they were testing them right up to the last minute. And you know, they're here till very, very late last night as well. So you know, they definitely feel they seem to have nailed it so far.
Yeah, I think we're slightly riding the route setters roller coaster as well. Initially think, oh, they're too easy, they're too hard. No, they're not. And then actually 9 times out of 10 it turns out they got it spot on. That's probably why they do the route setting. Here's Sergei Topishko. Men's 4, this tricky slab. When people have found the sweet spot, the balance move above this, it's looked relatively straightforward. But he is quite tall, Sergei, and as we mentioned, it's just hard to get compressed into that small space.
Yeah, and he opted to go for the really high left foot there rather than rocking over on the small dual textured foothold below, and I don't think realistically that's going to work for him, unfortunately. Sandra Lettner, I believe that is on women's number 4, has found a knee bar as well. She is really on form here. It's a good opportunity to have a good look at the top of women's number 4. Too much up there. We have seen a few tops on his boulders, but a real mount up to finish. And Sandra Lettner is on great form.
Yeah, 3 boulders so far. Can Sandra Lettner make it 4? Just need to zoom out a wee bit, Mr. Cameraman. And there we have it. Top for Sandra Lettner. What a second half of the semi-final. That will send her rocketing up the order. She was already in 4th with 1 top. We'll confirm her score when it comes through. Yuji, men's 2. Just over a minute to go for him. Semi-final always seems to feel as if it starts slowly, it's absolutely frantic, and then finishes quickly. It's suddenly wrapping up before you know it. Nathaniel Coleman gets a big cheer from the crowd, men's 3. Just to confirm, that was Sandra Lettner's 3rd attempt on the boulder and 3rd attempt on her own, and that puts her up into 3rd as it stands. Nathaniel Coleman, great contact strength, latches that top hold, finishes with a pull-up.
Yeah, brilliant method there. He was in desperate trouble all of a sudden and then went for the sort of last second match on the crimp below before firing up to the finish hold, and his method to the top hold with effectively the wrong hand really worked for him. You can see the relief on his face, and Team USA in the crowd always making plenty of noise, and that was a great moment.
Pretty sure he can't make the final already, Nathaniel Coleman. Left it a bit late, even if he does well on boulder 4. There's Sergey's got 7 seconds left. He's not going to get this done unless he can produce a moment of absolute brilliance. No, he's going to get timed out. That is the buzzer of doom for Sergey Tepishko. Job done, sadly. Our last climbers onto the second boulders. It's Mccoll Marwem on the right and Stasha Gayo on the left.
Yeah, and excitingly, Akio on women's number 3.
Yeah, Akio been absolutely flying. She's flashed both the boulders she's attempted so far. Perfect, clean sweep as it stands. She's looked at her absolute best. I was mentioning earlier, by the way, about her consistency. She hasn't actually won a World Cup, believe it or not, since Chongqing 2015. But in the last 2 years, the 15 World Cups and World Championships she's entered, she's made 11 finals.
Just looking at the scores here, Charlie, I think Sandra Lettner is potentially in a spot of danger, even though she had the only top in women's number 3. She's got 2 tops in 7 attempts and 4 zones in 14. I think it could be attempts that's going to be really crucial for her, and a few climbers still to come in. Looking like 2 tops is what you're going to need. It's going to be tough for Lettner whether she gets through, and a nice top from Alexei.
Yeah, let's see where that leaves Alexei Rubtsov. Only top before that boulder 4 was on boulder 1. Sasha Gale fighting hard. Women's 2.
There was a top there from Roland Rugens as well, so the top's coming thick and fast at this stage in the competition. Is kind of what we expect.
Sasha just needs to control this move up with the left hand and then get herself set and send the right to join it, and she just missed it. Looked like the left foot might have popped as she launched. So, watching on women's 4.
You do wonder with Stasha whether that effort on women's number 1 has maybe knocked her psychological game off a little bit. I mean, she's very good in that department, so hopefully not, but we would have really expected her to find an easy top there in women's number 2.
Mccoll Marwem, is he about to become the second man to top men's 2? He's not at this stage, but he's got 3 minutes to change that.
Yeah, that would have been an incredible show of contact strength if he did top it like that, because he had his feet in a completely different position to what we saw Jakob in.
Wonder if Aki Noguchi here, you can see in the middle of the screen, or we could see, just directing operations with the brushes. I wonder if she realises just what a good position she's in. She got the first 2 boulders done. The only other climbers to do is Janja Garnbrett, who's in first place still as it stands.
I've just spotted there, Charlie. If Stasha and Akio going in for the liquid chalk kind of gives you a bit of an indicator that it could be pretty hot out there, and they're suffering with the kind of contact on the holds. And yeah, I do wonder what the temperature is down there. It's pretty hot up here in the commentary box, and we're a fair way away from the competition. Well, definitely last year's final suffered from the heat a little bit.
Yeah, and worth bearing in mind as well, it's been freezing cold in the Hasletal Boulder Arena all week. When we arrived on Wednesday, I think, it was freezing. Ditto on Thursday. A bit warmer yesterday in the qualifiers, but the arena is cold generally. Makes what the route testers have achieved here in this semi-final doubly impressive, because we've had a big temperature swing.
Kia Noguchi looking for the foot options on the left-hand side, then struggling there all of a sudden.
Yeah, she needs to do something with that left foot. If you just have it swinging around like that, it just makes that volume you've got your hands on too poor to do much with.
Looks like we might find a top here from Sol Sa. Let's go right into this tour for the women here. Nice boulder, women's number 4, really powerful at the bottom. Oh, good catch at the top.
Nice work from Sol Sa. That's her first top of the day. Won't be enough, you wouldn't have thought. I'm just seeing the scores as they come in. Almost certainly won't be enough to get her into the final, but nice to finish with the top.
You can see how that right foot that Malwem's got his foot on now, how much the colour changed on that hold actually so much dirt and chalk build up from the bottom of the shoes through this boulder. It's it's getting absolute hammering and it's looking really tough to find the friction through those holds.
I think he really needs that, Mccoll. He's a big guy. He's going to struggle on men. He didn't get number 1 done. He really needs 2 and 3.
And talking of struggling, I think Tessio is having a bit of a meltdown on women's number 2. She's got to pull something out of the bag here with no top on women's number 1 either. Possible for her with 3 and 4 still to come, but with 30 or so seconds left, Tessio needs to find something here.
Yeah, and she's had a hand on that top hole, and she looks like mentally she's just getting a bit frustrating. That's the last thing she needs. She needs to just dial it down, find her calm place. No, she's not even going to try again. Looks really hacked off.
I think it was really coming down to that undercut with the right hand. She doesn't seem to find the right spot in it, and so good to see. She seems to be looking at her skin a little bit and shaking her head. That hole, you keep bumping it and get right up to the top of it, and she seemed to try and match it quite low down.
Well, our 2 highest placed qualifiers from yesterday, Tessio and Mccoll, who are climbing last in this semi-final, so far not off to a great start, which just goes to show that the theory that the strongest climbers come last, often not the case, and so it seems to be today.
Yeah, this is playing out really into Shauna's hands a little bit here. She said this when I was chatting today. There you can see her in 2nd place, coming out in the qualifier, coming out early in the semi-finals is put her into a pretty good position. She's quite happy, a bit cooler, nicer condition of the holds.
Look at Jakob Schubert up there, set the standard earlier on. He climbed 3rd, he qualified 18th yesterday. Absolutely caned it through those boulders and really should have got number 4 done. He could have been the only climber with 4 tops, for some reason just didn't get on with it. Speaking of number 4, we've got Nathaniel Coleman on it now. And only the left-hand side of the Meiringen stage will be occupied from now on. We're on to the last 2 boulders, 3 and 4. 2 are done. Jesse Pilz launches up men's 3. Close attempt there from Yuji Fuji on men's 3. Miho Nanaka, Nathaniel Coleman, the other 2 climbers on stage. Miho currently sitting in a very precarious looking 6th place with Tessio and Jesse Pilz chasing their way up the leaderboard. Worth bearing in mind that Akiya Noguchi, who will be next out onto that boulder, is already actually ahead of Miho.
Yeah, it'd be a bit of a surprise if we didn't go through to the finals.
Sandra Lettner, just scores now. Sandra Lettner, what a performance that was. Anyway, let's have a look at Nathaniel Coleman, another tall climber, again struggling to get into position on men's 4. So all action as Jesse Pilz launches into women's 3. So how now to move up rightwards to that zone? And she had the right idea. Looked like she tried to move both limbs at the same time, and it was a bit too much. Miho really cement her in an excellent position. It does, top for her. There's certainly no doubt she was controlling that top hold. She spent plenty of time up there.
Yeah, that'll fire towards the top couple of spots on the leaderboard.
Yeah, so far only 4 climbers with 2 tops. They'll make that 5 with me. Moves up to 3rd dance. Akiya Noguchi moves below her, but she is yet to attempt boulder 4. So Nathaniel Coleman, he's got half of his 5 minutes left to get this number 4 done.
Yeah, currently down in 15th position. Could put himself up into 10 potentially.
Yeah, I think the final is beyond him at this stage, but 2 tops would be very respectable given the difficulty of these boulders. Men have managed more than 2 tops.
Yeah, and just great to see him back on the World Cup circuit.
Yeah, he's a climber that people are expecting a lot from, and probably with good reason, and just tries a different method, possibly actually better for someone of his height to have his feet that bit lower, but still maybe a bit too far. This is a tricky way of doing the move. If you can get any sort of pinch out of it, he stands a chance, but it's a tough ask. There's no texture at all where his left foot is. You can see how his foot's moving so easily on that section of the hold.
Oh, this is hard. It's hard to watch.
Anyone that climbs slabs at their local climbing gym knows exactly what this feels like. You can see what he's trying to do.
Yeah, potentially an absolute judging nightmare on that finish hold. Controlling a hold that basically has no texture is never an easy thing to try and decide whether it's legitimate or not. Luckily for the judge on that effort, he did just slip off, but yeah, tantalising at the top of the ball.
Jessie Pilz on women's 3. What a boulder that's proved to be. Stopped some of the best climbers in the world. Didn't stop Sandra Lettner. Her compatriot Jessie Pilz launches up it. She's got a minute left. She's using a lot of energy. It's such a physical boulder. Elbows up and shoulders out. Still not quite finding the method. Yuji Fujiwaki, men's 3.
On extremely good form based on his qualifying performance. He only climbed all 5 climbs in his group. No such issues on the crimp as I say that, and he fires off. We saw Chon fall off quite a few times there as well. This is better from Nathaniel though. He seems to have thought about it. He's gone for the left foot option. He tried absolutely everything with it. Seemed just dipping, twisting out into the right hand side a little bit. Seems to be a bit better of a position. Oh, heartbreaker.
That windmill of the arms actually worked well for a couple of climbers, but it does throw you off balance slightly. You've got to have extraordinary shoulder flexibility to get it through, pushing your weight away from the wall. It's also that corner that you get wedged in onto men's 4. It looks like you might be able to put your back against it, but the corner's much more open than it might appear on our live stream. There's no way you can push on it or put your foot behind you or anything like that. Very tricky slab, really well set from the route setters.
Here we go then, Charlie, with Stasha starting on women's 3. Tops for her so far, so she needs to pull something out of the bag here. Definitely needs at least one top, and 3 zones in attempt for the top and 4 attempts for the zone. Fanny Gibert setting in 6th at the moment.
Well, with the shift in emphasis and zones becoming more important than attempts for tops, that could work in Stasha's favour. It's a big, but she did get both zones on boulders 1, so that might just come and pay dividends. She's not looked mentally, she was especially enjoying her climbing, but she's a really aggressive competitor. A boulder like this where you've got to fight could well suit her current mind.
She really seems to be looking at her skin a lot so far around this round. You do wonder if she's really suffering with some bad skin of some description. We saw her dip it into the liquid chalk on the previous boulder. You know, sometimes the climbers can get into this mindset of the skin is really suffering and they can let that get to them. But Stasha, we would have thought, is so sort of experienced that wouldn't be a problem for her as Malwem takes a fire off a boulder.
Always looks like he's having fun, Mccoll Malwem, brother of Basser, of course, the speed climber. Here's Akira Noguchi, looking absolutely extraordinary here.
Yeah, there's a high chance this should probably put her up into first position, depending on the number of attempts it's taken to get to that stage on the 4th boulder. But got to say, Charlie, Akira Noguchi is looking in fine form once again at the IFSC World Cups.
Well, extraordinary to think it's nearly 3 years since she won a World Cup, but that extraordinary recency of nearly always making the final and making a huge amount of podiums has got to pay off with the gold medal. I do not think her trophy cabinet is yet. I think there's space for at least a few more gold medals, and on her form today, she could well claim one this evening.
Interestingly, Roland Rugens, we're not really focused on him too much, but if he finds a top on men's number 4, he will put himself into a finals position. So has he got the skills on the slab to get himself into the final? And you can see it there, Stasha Gay just asking what is going on. Goes for the liquid chalk once again. Really interesting if Stasha doesn't make the final to have a chat with her later and see what went wrong. She's just shaking her head really from the start, the moment that she came out.
Mccoll Malwem, no joy for him. Yeah, as you say, Roland's really good to have him back in the World Cups and could well shift himself right up the order here at the top of men's 4. Interesting point on the men's set, by the way. In Munich there was much talk that for tall climbers, like this is Munich last year, 2017, for tall climbers the boulders are much easier. If you look at the qualifiers as it stands, if things don't change for the final tonight, you'd have to say perhaps slightly easier for smaller climbers. Jan Hoyer, Nathaniel Coleman, Kokora Fuji, nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I think it's always such a tricky discussion, isn't it? A never-ending one in climbing.
Yeah, and I'm not putting any blame on the route setters, but next time people say, well, it looks like it's easier for climbers when you have a final like you do in Munich, then perhaps you could show them this semi-final. It might begin to disprove that theory, because as I say, generally slightly shorter climbers as it stands going through in the men's final. Stasha really not happy, and these semi-finals, they go by so fast. You're on the wall for 5 minutes, you're off for 5 minutes, you're actually only from going onto the wall for the first time to finishing your last attempt, it's only 35 minutes.
Let's check the maths on Stasha's climb, because you said that she got the zones, 2 previous zones. I'm not sure if she secured the zone on this, but she could, I think, still squeeze in. All is not lost.
Yeah, I was just saying though, but it's 35 and go by so fast. You lose it mentally. You just got no time to get it back. You go back into isolation. You're only there for 5 minutes. You bats, and it seems like needs to get her head back into sending mode.
Well, I think that's why it's so important when you do go to the isolation zone. Say, that was that boulder. I'll forget that ever happened, and I'll just start as a new climber on the next.
Yeah, absolutely. Know how to do that, please. So Mccoll Webb, solid onto the crimp. Barn doors, but makes it stick. This is looking in. There's the top bowl, left hand, right hand, top. You see the lights here. That looked like balance a couple of times, but he made it stick. He heads back.
He knows on a show, and the semi-final is really lively here in Meiringen. Fantastic. Roland Rugens looks like it's not going to be enough. He's not through, can't improve. Unfortunately, too much from that position. He is the top 10, which is good effort nonetheless, like you say, from a really bad injury last year to come back and find a top World Cup is absolutely brilliant. Going to be enough for him. So we're really getting towards the end of the competition, semi-finals, and there's, Charlie, would have to say, not too many surprises so far in the women's competition at the top there.
Tessio, who's looked superb. She looked great in Munich back in last summer and looked great in the qualifiers yesterday. As you say, Mike, we haven't done the maths yet, but really needs to pull something out the bag if she wants to take any satisfaction out of this semi-final. I'll leave Mike to do the maths. Sorry, Mike. Steam pouring out of Lee's headset as we speak. Fujiwaki and Jesse Pilz on the wall.
Just focusing on the men's competition briefly. Three-way tie in the 5th spot at the moment. That could give the officials a little bit of a headache after tied scores yesterday as well. Sure, we'll see soon, but that's one to watch out for as well.
Remember, we are splitting the finals this year in all the bouldering groups, and they're going to alternate between men first and women first. So this evening in Meiringen, it's women out. In Moscow next week, it'll be the men out first. But all the finals will be split this season, so you'll see every move on every attempt from every. Yuji wedged in the shorter climber. Just trying to figure out how to position himself. Nothing there for that left foot, it's there just for balance really. Bringing the right hand over is so tenuous, but this looks halfway useful. He's kind of in that top hold. There's nothing to pinch to the top half of it. There's no texture at all. Okay, has a rethink.
Kai Harada had the foot swap mentality, went in there, had a good look. Oh, he just dropped, his leg just bent.
I think if the good texture part of that hold was a centimetre wider, he'd have made that stick. The left foot had ended up on the part of the hold, and he was out of there.
I'll use this opportunity, Charlie, just to have a look at Stasha's score. I'm going to have a. But basically, Fanny Gibert setting in the 6th position with 1 top in 1 attempt and 3 zones in 4. Stasha's already got 2 zones, so if Flash is the final problem, that would be 1 top in 1 attempt and 3 zones in 3 attempts, which would put her into the finals position, I hope. With a pen and paper and a slightly reduced scoring system, we hope that is correct, and that really does prove you never give up.
Yes, I think, as I say, the hard bit is going to be doing exactly what you described, Mike, of getting in the right headspace. Yuji Fuji once again finds himself nearly wedged in the corner.
Just looking at the scores again, Charlie, but Jessie Pills, if she finds a top here, will put all of that mass completely redundant, because she will rocket up the 2 tops. And it looks quite likely, to be honest.
Yeah, she flashed boulder 2. And she's currently sitting in 7th place with 1 top, 3 zones, 1 attempt. some 5 attempts.
Really good effort here from Jessie Pills.
Oh no, that is a heartbreaker from Jessie Pills. It'd be good to see that again. I'm not entirely sure how she dropped that.
There's an silence here because it's quite interesting. The guys controlling the lights just off to our right started flashing the lights as if she'd found a top, and she just wobbled out of it. So I wonder if there's some form of appeal there.
And actually, we can see the eating man, and he's
sweating, I think.
Sweating. He just blew the timing on that one. I'm not entirely sure how Jessie Pills dropped that. Nice work from Yuji Fujiwaki. Perseverance rewarded, and there are the flashing lights for a top. And Jessie, I think she knows that was her shot.
Yeah, and to the zone holds for Jessie Pills on this is going to be crucial. The importance of the previous bonus, but the zone hold gone up in the rankings just after the number of tops. Interesting to see what happens with this. It's going to be really close, and that's what we want. Really great to have a really close competition. Jessie Pills is back on the wall and really fighting now, and the local MC has got the crowd on their feet for Jessie Pills just to having fighting. So it looks like the tank is empty. 15 seconds left. She's going to walk off, and that an absolute heartbreaker. We'd love to see again what exactly happened there. And that, I mean, if that's a deciding factor whether she makes the final or not, that is harsh.
Yeah, we're just trying to replay. We'll give you one if we can, but we thought she got it. The lighting man thought she got it. I wouldn't be surprised if the judge was halfway through marking her score and had to pull out, because that was as close as you can get to a top, and she looked in the odd one.
Well, she did, but you can generally tell by the athlete's face what's happened, and she seemed to in a way that she hadn't secured it. So I'll be surprised if there is appeal on second, kind of looking back, kind of thinking about it a bit more, that she seemed to know that she hadn't controlled it. You know, she jumped on the wall without sort of kicking off at the judge or really kind of having an argument with anybody. She just seemed to be resolved to the fact that she had out of the finish.
So Stash is out, Mccoll Webb is out. Webb currently sitting down in 6th. He's got 1 top and 2 zones. The lack of a zone on men's 1 could come back to haunt him. Stasha really needs this.
Not meant to be. No, that's it. Stasha cannot make her way through. Split second there. I thought she might be able to hold that move, but she didn't. The right hand on the underside of that volume that she was on. Seems to be a bit of a 1-2 move in the hands. A really great move. Looks like Stasha is not meant to be today. Really interesting to find out what's happened. I don't think I'll be jumping in for a chat with her too soon after this round, unfortunately.
No, I think I'll let you take that one, Mike. She'll be disappointed. Last climbers out. The semi-final as ever. It just seems to suddenly be over, having been frantically busy. Thank you for your company. We'll be back this evening. We did have some audio issues earlier on. We'll do our best to rectify them before the final it's shaping up to be. We'll confirm in just a second. We'll keep an eye on the action as it's still coming. Stasha, after such a promising day yesterday, has converted that today, sadly.
Yeah, but what a fantastic start to the season, I'd say, so far. You know, there's so much excitement going into this. We've been waiting eagerly over the previous few months, just waiting for this competition to get underway, and it's been a great semi-final, great crowd, a lot of support for everybody here, and I think the finals is going to be a great show, so we do hope you can join us for that. As Stasha goes in for the tape, she seems to be suffering a lot with the skin. Now she's taping up. Do wonder if she's bleeding out of one of those tips. Slightly disappointing start from Stasha. She looked so dominant after the qualifying round yesterday. Goes for the 1-2 option there from Stasha.
Yeah, not actually happy is Mccoll Webb on men's 4. Can't make the final now. Could get another top. This is a tricky move. He's a big guy, Mccoll Webb.
Yeah, you could see he couldn't even straighten the right leg there at all. You can see him just shaking out the right leg.
So both climbers currently on the mats. Just and a heart left of the Here's the replay we were looking for. Missy Pills. So Mike, through this.
Yeah, so she looks really steady there. Gets the left hand. It's actually, yeah. So she got the left hand underneath, and fine. Usually that position she should just stick it, but her right foot seems to be a little bit too far off the balance point over to the left, and she's gone to the left hand, and in doing that, seems to have just lost her focus a little bit and fumbled it, and the left hand's just fumbled it, and somehow she's fallen off.
It was quite obvious on the replay in real time. It all just seemed to happen so quickly. But yeah, I can't help thinking if she that left hand where it was, she might have been. But as you say, maybe she just didn't feel she could hold the position.
Yeah, I think the balance point was just slightly too far to the left, which meant that she had to flip it to try and get in a slightly better position. And she was really, really comfortable in that position. Thought, yeah, I'll just flip it round. Jobs are good, and I'm in the final. And it's just off.
Just over 30 seconds left of our semi-final here in Meiringen. 6:30 tonight. We'll be back. Women's final first. Sadly for Tessio, it won't feature. Can she finish with a top? She certainly won't give up.
Yeah, she's still fighting hard. This is I mean, she's doing it for the psychology, for the crowd now. She's putting in a great effort and showing that she's got the ability. Can she find a nice?
She's got the time, and she nearly had the top. She rushed it there. I think she probably didn't realise she actually had 5 seconds. She looked pretty despondent.
Yeah, I think that is just a nail in the coffin for Tessio there, unfortunately. Rushed the top move, gives the fist bump to the crowd anyway. It's a good effort, but yeah, a bit of a disaster by Tassio's kind of level anyway, what she would come to expect.
Well, we can confirm the final in just a second. We've got the results as they stand, but we just want official confirmation before we give them to you.
Yeah, I have to say, a thoroughly enjoyable semi-final round. Hope you guys enjoyed it at home. It was really, really good fun to watch. Great boulders. See there.
Yeah, tough round as well, particularly in the women's competition. Below Solsar in place. Yeah, below Solsar in 12th place. Tops for any of the bottom 8 women. So tough round. But you can see it there. Akira Noguchi look at her absolute superb best. She takes first place in the semi-final. She'll be joined in the final by Yanya Garnbrett, Shauna Coxey, Miho Nanaka, the young bolter Sandra Lettner, the in-form Fanny Gilbert. What a final promises to be. And separation there from the route setters. Top 5 with 2 tops, everyone else with 1 or less. And you can see below, no tops. A tough round for the women. Bit of a tough day for Petra Klingler. She'd have had high hopes, especially consistent 2017. She'd love to have climbed in front of her home crowd tonight, but sadly she will be watching on from the men's results feed. And then with Jakob Schubert, Mike and I both sweating that the route setters is it, but it turns out that Jakob Schubert is super strong. Winning the final by Tomoe Narasaki, Manuel Tomoaki Takata, Jongwon Chon and Kruda. Again, what a classic that could be. 2 Japanese climbers through out of the 7 who made it to the semi. Rugens, his career ends 11th, highest placed, lowest placed climber with 2 tops. Fuji, the defending Meiringen champion, will not make it through. Ditto Nathaniel Coleman, Jan Hoyer, Kai Harada, Elbon Levier. Lots of strong climbers missing out, particularly in the men's side of things. So, fantastic semi-final here in Meiringen, the 2018 season. It's off to a bit of a flyer. Finals will start with the women at 6 tonight, and what that we've got. Thank you for watching.